Good morning, friends. Steve. I had to pause a minute, remember the name my parents gave me. And people have been calling me something like that ever since. So today is 17th of March. And so a week from today is the completion of the 28-year cleansing cycle. I'm glad that I'm glad about that. Okay, so I was listening to one of my videos, and the thing is I listen to all my videos because in the videos I'm downloading information. So my guides are bringing information in for me as well as the people that they're speaking to through me. So people get these kind of divine messages and they think it's me, and I'm just like, it's possible. It's possible. But I'm just letting information come in. And so I listen to it later. And I think it's this spot is kind of puffy because last night in the dream world, I bit down on my lip for whatever reason. Stress. Maybe stress. Because, there's a few people out there are stressed, and I work with the World Healing Field, so sometimes I feel that stress, and maybe I get stressed about people's stress. Because I avoid the news, but you can't not hear about something going on somewhere. I was noticing how my missing tooth shows up more when it's just one missing, but when there are others missing, it doesn't show up as much. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's like you don't see the shadow, but you just see the gap when there's a gap. So yeah, this morning or yesterday, sometime in the maybe late morning, I think it was yesterday, my wife came in and said, "Who are you listening to?" Because I didn't have my earphones in, and I turned it off, and I said, "I'm listening to myself." And she said, "Well, you sound like some Southern preacher man." And I said, "Well, I am a Southern preacher man. I spent, 26 years in the South, um, Southern California. And not only Southern California, it's pretty south in terms of America, because further south than Southern California is Baja California, which is part of Mexico currently, unless that changes at some point. A lot of nice property along that Baja, and it it can be, you can see it a couple of different ways. You can see it as terrifying, or you can see it as a comedy. That's You have to stretch to see it as a comedy, so you know that I can stretch, and I can breathe. And I don't know what I have the volume set at. Middle seems to work out well. I can't really see if it's Yeah, it seems like it's recording, but people tell me it's been too low lately. Seems like I'm loud. Okay, so what we're gonna do? My wife's gone off on an adventure. She's gone off this peninsula on this island to the other peninsula across the water from the mid part of this island. So she left this peninsula, went up to the midpoint of the island, took a ferry across to the peninsula on the peninsula. Peninsula. I'm bringing it down. I saw this interview with like T. Hunter Thompson or somebody's a writer, and not really. I don't know if I would say he's my kind of person. I would say he probably isn't, but at least when he and Conan O'Brien went out to some place so they could shoot machine guns, that it was just a teddy bear that they were shooting at. It was not live things, which even though it may bring my stuff up a little bit to watch a teddy bear be assassinated. I'd rather not see anything assassinated. I've got issues with it, and some of you know why. That's what I prefer to refer to it as an assassination attempt. Okay, so we have a week from today. So we have really, in some ways, 7 more days. It would have been 8 days today, but tomorrow it'll be 7 days until Monday, March 24th, when we complete the 28-year cycle between the two 13,000-year half cycles. So the full cycle is 26,000 years. Half the cycle is feminine presence around the earth. The other cycle is masculine presence around the earth. We're completing the masculine presence around the earth. We're moving into the feminine presence around the earth. And the 28-year cycle in between is kind of a cleanup between cycles. And we're completing that as of next Monday. Am I glad for that? Okay, so we're going to first start off, and let me see, I yabbered for 7 minutes, could have made a whole video in that 7 minutes, but let's do this together. Let's just gather in his name. That didn't sound very southern, but I'll work on the southern part of it. I have to tune back into when I was a young person in Southern California. Okay, I'm starting to get the feel of it. I never grew up in Southern California. Nobody does. Okay, we're working it. All right, so we're going to all state out loud, those who actually do it. But I can say we're going to all state. We're going to all state out loud that we connect to our deep self. And that's not deep south. That's deep self. Sounds like south. Because I'm lisping. Because I've had this dental work. Which I like dental work because it's better than not having dental work. That's what I figured out. Okay, I connect to my higher self. I connect to my highest self. I ground myself to the healing center of the earth. I open myself to the healing power of the One. Can you feel that change taking place already? I let go of anything not useful to me now. I choose to work with the Hathors. I ask that a field be placed around us while we do our work, and I ask the higher self to take us through the portal of time to the event that would be of the highest good to release and integrate at this time. Invite all souls back to the event to release and integrate the energy of the event for themselves, and I ask that they be placed in a field of protection while they do their work. And upon arrival at the event, I ask the higher self to assist us to release and integrate all energies of the event, gently and easily, fully and completely, on all levels and through all space and time. That's the healing field set up. The healing field's not based in time. It's based on uh, a place of timelessness. And so when we go back to the event, we're just going to the event. Everything's occurring at once. I don't know. I can't explain it. I just understand that we're not really going back to something. We're going to back to something that we're going to something that exists in our perceived past. But when you go back to it, it's happening right there. So it's a movie, or is it all a movie, or is just when we go back to events like through a regression or past life regression, when we go back to these events in the past, are they occurring when we go back to them? That's a good question. Okay, so I'm glad to feel that I brought my glasses. I'm going to have to just clean them up a little bit. And we're just going to get one card today, and it's a cups. And so the cups are about emotions. And this is just a card to help you work with emotions if you're working with them currently. We got 4 of cups, and the 4 is a stable number. It's about structure, organization, systems, progression, foundations, and stability. Cups are related to water, related to emotions, connections, love, intimacy, community, intuition. Just hang with that for a moment. And it's associated with the heart. The key words are retreat, boredom, isolation, emotional walls, selfishness, disappointment, and introspection. So we may have found strong community and powerful ties, yet the bloom has gone off the rose somewhat. And we find ourselves bored, withdrawn, closed off. Everything exhausts us, annoys us, but rather than investing more deeply in the people we found, we feel resentful of them, wishing they would make more of an effort, yet being frustrated when they do. This internal tension, this desire to isolate, is the disappointed, unsatisfied energy of the 4 of Cups. Boundaries are not a bad thing. There are times when we must protect ourselves. When we feel the need for limits or rules around how much of our hearts other people have access to. It's particularly true if we are someone who has endured abuse or trauma. Putting walls up around our emotions can feel necessary for emotional security and safety. 4 is the number of protection. Safeguarding, stability, and sturdy, reliable foundations. And with the Suit of Cups, we often find this manifest as relational discipline. If we muddy the waters and distance ourselves to the extreme, if we refuse to engage with our communities and emotions in an authentic way, it can lead to isolation, frustration, or dissatisfaction. The 4 of Cups lives in this stifling, awkward place and speaks of a lack of trust or a feeling of boredom with our relationships. When we don't want to be exposed to hurt but still want to reap the benefits of vulnerability, we can feel incredibly frustrated, even trapped. Intimacy costs something. And while at one point we may have been willing to pay that price, the Four of Cups often represents a moment when the risk no longer feels worth the potential reward. As much as we might like to be able to control our emotions completely or force other people to feel a certain way about us, the reality of the world we live in is that these things are simply not possible. We can be responsible only for ourselves. And sometimes controlling or understanding our emotions is beyond our capabilities. One strategy for coping with this lack of control is avoidance and denial of any hurt feelings or anger, while another strategy is keeping relationships at surface level. Many of us have done that most of our life. Refusing to let others get past a certain threshold of intimacy. Either way, we're not getting what we actually need. Yet if we can be brave enough to share those burdens, to acknowledge our mistakes, to hold space for those we love and allow them to return the favor, relationships can make this sensation of loneliness easier to bear. This is a good card. I'm just so glad that that's what the universe gifted us with today. I'm noticing change, and I'm going to just talk about one way. This is the authenticity piece, because my intention is to be authentic in everything that I share, even when I'm Goofy, or Pluto, or Mickey, or Donald. Yesterday, I was heading down the stairs. I had a backpack, a glass of smoothie, a mug of smoothie. I had a lot of smoothie. And I was about ready to head down the stairs, and my wife stepped in front of me and said, "Would you like a hug?" And I looked and I was like, okay. So I set the smoothie down, the glass and the cup. I set them both down on the top of the kiddie climbing structure. And this one's only maybe 4 feet high. But I set them down, took my backpack off, began experiencing the hug, and heard something and looked over and saw my smoothie had tipped over and was pouring the entire contents of the smoothie with some green substance in it, something that made it green. I can't even remember what I put into the smoothie, but this green goop was dripping down the wall. I withdrew from the hug, straightened up the glass, and then my wife went into kind of a bit of panicky energy. And I just said, this will be much easier for me to take care of without you here. And she said, good, and she left. And then it was just my responsibility to clean things up to the best of my ability. That was done. It took a while, I'm going to say. I mean, there was a lot of just careful wall washing, carpet cleaning, kiddie climbing structure wiping off. It took a while. And then rinsing things out. But I didn't get angry. And I realized that in the past, I first of all would have got triggered by anger that would have been my pattern to get triggered, to get angry, and then to place blame. So I would have placed the blame on my wife for asking me for a hug. And I would have. This is a bit ways back, but I would have. I tended to blame others for experiences that I didn't like. And I'm sure that just stemmed out of lots of experiences in growing up where others caused me pain and I held it in. But in this, I noticed things have changed because I just thought, oh, a cup spilled over, spilled substance down the wall. I probably should just clean that up. And I cleaned it up. And after I was done cleaning it up, I thought, wow, that was really different. I really responded to that completely different than I have in the past. To me, when you notice change in your behaviors, your emotions, your boundaries, your beliefs about yourself, something's changed. I got everything cleaned up. I put the kitty structure on. I put a towel onto the floor to soak up the moisture from cleaning. I put the kitty structure on top of the towel to weight it down to help absorb that moisture. And then I went into the other room and I said, can we have that hug again? And my wife said, well, sure. But I was so different that she was like, whoa, in the past, I probably would have taken my irritation off by myself and spent a day or two kind of getting over it. And the fact that I didn't go into irritation was a change. And the fact that I didn't go into irritation and then go into blame of another person for my irritation, that was a change. A change in a good direction. So that's the kind of little story, possibly metaphoric message. Who knows? All right, so we have our reading. We got the Four of Cups. So we're possibly dealing with some emotions that we feel like we need to withdraw from our relationships to process. And in that withdrawal, we're feeling separate, we're feeling lonely, we're struggling emotionally, and we don't feel like we have the energy to ask for help. If that seems like that's accurate for you, then know that there's just been a lot going on, not as an excuse, but there's been a lot going on in the world. The energetics have been fairly intense for a lot of people. And we're going through the last week of a major cleansing process. And always when there's a cleansing process in the body, which this has been, it's been physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. When there's a cleansing process, there's oftentimes some exhaustion involved. And these last 7 days, we want to be careful with ourselves. We want to make sure we get our needs met by ourselves or in relationship to others. And I will tell this last story. So it was a week or so ago, in my number 8 download session in my Ancestral Healing Code course, Thomas Hubel downloaded this information and it triggered me. And I went into kind of a desperation, a feeling of despair, a feeling of isolation, a feeling like needing. I got into this real needing place. I need this. I need help here. Can't you see I'm struggling emotionally? And that was somewhat the card we got yesterday, was this struggling emotionally, this neediness, this dark, going into this dark thing and whatever. That was yesterday. This is now. But in this experience, in the Ancestral Healing Code course, we're, 400 or 500 people online with Thomas Hubel. And we have integration sessions to deal with the stuff that comes up from the information that he shares. And when we get in a large group, we set up the structure of what we're going to do in small groups, and we break up into groups of 3 that are called triads. And in those triads, one person speaks based on answering the question that was asked. One person speaks, and the other 2 just hold space. They don't try to fix them. They don't say, "Oh, they don't say anything for the most part. We sit and listen and let the person download. But when they're downloading in this group of 3, it's actually energetically a group of 400 or 500 people that are holding that space. So a lot happens in that space. Well, that's the integration session, but in the Thomas Hubel session, what he does is at the end of the download, he'll take questions from people and work with them online. So there's Thomas Hubel, and the person he's working with online. And so I hit the raise hand, I need to be worked with. I was feeling kind of desperate, so much emotion. I wanted somebody to help me clear it. And I was in this really kind of intense place with all these feelings, needing help and all that energy. And they called on someone else. And this person got on and started talking. And I felt like I withdrew. And I felt like, I just got to work with this myself. And as I was having that feeling, I thought, well, this isn't the time to necessarily separate from this group of healers. And so I was doing my best to listen as I was working with my own stuff. And you know how when your stuff's up, it's really hard to have anybody say anything. And so I was kind of blocking it, but kind of listening to it. And then all of a sudden I realized that they were doing something really powerful, and that the thing he was working with that individual was the stuff I was working with. And all of a sudden I tuned in, and I found I was in my triad. I was with my 2 other people, and I was taking the mature stance of just being present as the energy was worked with. Well, when the energy cleared for the individual, the energy cleared for me. And all that energy I'd been feeling that I needed help with this, all of a sudden just released. And the disturbed energy from the unresolved event got grounded into the earth, and I felt completely different. And it took maybe 3 minutes. That, I feel like, was one of the more important things that have occurred to me in my healing processes in this lifetime. It was powerful, it was useful, and I hope the story you find useful for you if you're working with some intense things right now. Just know, give them up to the universe, give them up to the earth. Let go of the intensity of the energetics, because once the intensity of the energetics is released, all you have is a resolved experience. Because whatever these unresolved experiences are, they're unresolved because the emotions haven't been integrated. Once the emotions are released and integrated, then it's just a present experience from the past. because you can have it present because it no longer has all those emotional energies that disturb you. You finished it. Just like these healing events we go back to. Through the portal of time, into a place of timelessness, we go back to these events. And we release and integrate the energy of the event for ourselves, but we do it with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of other souls that are invited back to do that with us. So we're doing these things. It's really sometimes thousands, sometimes 100,000. That depending on the event, it could have affected a lot of people. And we're going back and we're working with the energy together, because when you travel back to the event, you travel back to the event with me. I'm a support system for you when you're back at the event, so you may actually feel me there with you. And I'm also clearing the event for myself as you clear the event for yourself, and I was also supporting you clearing that event for yourself to help make it easier. And even if I continue to just kind of talk about things, on a soul level, we're both back there. We're both back there resolving the event, along with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of souls, all back there clearing the event. Once we've done that, like now, then I ask the higher self and our soul group to assist all the souls that are back at the event to combine with that part of their soul that had remained at the event when it was a trauma, and that other part of our soul left without resolving it. Now that part of our soul that is us is back resolving it, and then collecting that part of itself that had remained and bringing that completed, more complete soul back into the body in present time with all of its wisdom, power, and clarity, its compassion, its creativity, its kindness, and with peace and joy, I invite all those souls to ground themselves into the healing center of the earth and open up a portal for the delivery of these new energies coming in from the higher realms. And we are Winklil, according to the Mayan calendar. Winklil stands for human being, and the definition of Winklil is cosmic vibratory root. So we are a root system for the cosmos to bring energies into the earth, which we're going to do right now. So I ask the higher self and our soul group and all the beings that work with us in these healing fields to assist us to bring in these new healing energies now. And you may just feel them coming in, and you may feel them changing you as they go through you, although you have already changed a lot by going back and resolving this event in the space of timelessness. And then once that energy gets into the earth, we ask that it be activated. And once it is activated, it spreads out throughout the earth. And then I mentioned to the universe, it's aware of this, but I mention it to the universe. I let the universe know that this event has been resolved, the energy has been brought in and activated, and that is good. And then we're done with the event. And you get to be done with this video if you weren't done with it some time ago. Hey, this is Steve. I really appreciate you doing this work with me. We have just 8 days, a week till next Monday, and part of that day will be the final clearing, and then the new world starts on that day as well. So it finishes and starts on Monday the 24th. And I'm glad that I've gotten to be on this part of your journey with you up till now. And we'll probably be doing this most days that I can get online and make these videos. All right, now go change.